The Bible Treasury. A monthly magazine of papers on scriptural subjects. Volume 19, Article 1, Part 69 of 93, 1892 and 1893. The Early Chapters of Genesis. By William Kelly. Genesis 10 verses 11 and 12. The important fact imparted to us, in the verses immediately preceding, we have seen to be the first establishment of royal power in the Cushite Nimrod, and this by force and fraud, transferred from hunting wild beasts to acquiring dominion over mankind for personal aggrandizement. His city building in Babylonia we have also seen, the earliest development of the kind since the deluge. Nor is any architecture more characteristic of race, as Mr. Ferguson has shown, than the massive monumental style of the sons of Ham. This is confirmed by the true sense of Micah 5 verse 6, where the land of Assyria is expressly distinguished from the land of Nimrod, which last was really the plain of Shinar. They were quite distinct and separated by the Hiddekel or Tigris. In that land, i.e. Babylonia, there were Shemitic and Japhetic elements no less than the Hamitic, which at first was predominant. It is such an episodical notice as seems to account for the mention in this place of a counter-movement on the part of the Shemite Ashur, of whom we read in his due place afterwards. A step forward among men naturally finds imitation ere long. And the record of the new policy in the south is followed by that of a similar course in the north as far as the building of cities is concerned, though this may not have been at all contemporary but later than that. Their kindred nature sufficiently explains the mention of both at this point. From that land went forth Ashur, and built Nineveh, and Rehoboth-ir, and Calah, and Resen between Nineveh and Calah, this is the great city, verses 11 and 12. It is not intimated that Ashur was driven out by the Hamitic race, but rather is it inferred from the language that the success of Nimrod set the example, and gave the impulse to a like ambition. How completely Noah's authority, for he still lived, was forgotten by all, is evident by all that is revealed. Patriarchal place yielded to men's thoughts and will. Of these four cities, the first is beyond any just question. Yet it is late in the history of the world when we hear of Nineveh. Then in the days of Jonah, it was a very great city, according to some of still greater extent than Babylon when the golden city rose to its zenith. But human accounts of cities long passed away need to be read with caution, as the chroniclers long after were apt to stray through exaggeration. Still, the biblical intimation of its later existence is of immense extent, vast population, and exceeding splendor. The remains exhumed in our day attest that the words of Scripture are here as reliable as everywhere else. Yet we need not conceive anything more when Ashur wrought his work than a little beginning of that which was at length to attain such power and magnificence. This is retained to triumph over the 10 tribes of Israel and to menace Judah and David's house when it received a blow so manifestly divine that it never troubled the Holy Land again. Ere long it fell never to rise when God was pleased to bring forward Babylon from a provincial position, though with a king and sometimes independent, to become the mistress of the world, and the captor of the guilty capital and king and people of the Jews. Rehoboth-ir appears to be so specified to distinguish it from Rehoboth the Nahureh of the river. This latter, Genesis 36 verse 37, 1 Chronicles 1 verse 48, was unmistakably on the river Euphrates, and in fact the name is still found given to 2 places on the river, one on the western bank, 8 miles below the junction of the Kabar, Rehoboth, Chesnes Euphra 119, 2, 610, the other with an added name, Rehoboth Malek, which General Chesney does not notice, but it is given in Mr. Layard's Nineveh, a few miles lower on the eastern bank. Rehoboth-ir was in Assyria proper. Kaplan, the Jewish geographer, identifies Rehoboth of the river with Rehoboth Malek but distinguishes it from Rehoboth-ir, which he believes to have disappeared. See Smith's Dictionary of the Bible, 3, 1026, column 1. As no trace of the city has as yet commended itself to any explorer, it may be worth naming, that Jerome, not only in the Vulgate but in his works, Quaest ad Genesum, gives it as his opinion that it was part of what became Nineveh, meaning the streets of the city, i.e. Platia Civitatis. This is a mere conjecture, which may be cleared up by better knowledge. But Kala was too important a city to be so easily hidden. This the Septuagint renders II plus or minus III, and distinguishes from Hala in 2 Kings 17 verse 6, 18:2, and 1 Chronicles 5 verse 26, rendered a 1/4 II plus or minus I. Chesney, 1, 22, 119, appears to accept Sir H. Rawlinson's identification of Kala with the ruins of Holweye, situated near the river Diyala, and about 130 miles east of Baghdad. If so, it is now Sar. Padigrili Zoab on the slopes of the Zagros, and in the high road leading from Baghdad to Kerma and Shah, Volume 9, 36 of Royal Geography. Journal, Chesney 2, 25. It seems once to have been the capital of the empire, the residence of Sardanapalus and others, till Sargon built a new capital on the site of what is now called Khairsabad. But it still retained importance till the empire fell. Resen has been by some identified with the AIII superscript 1I 1/2 I plus or minus of Steph. Byz and Toll. Geographic V18, this, however, was not in Assyria, but far west. Bochet, Geographic Sac 4, 28, suggested the Larissa of Xenophon, Anab 3, 4, and 7, which call hardly be doubted to correspond with the remarkable ruins now called Nimrud. Mr. Rawlinson leans to the view that these ruins answer to Kala, and that Resen, therefore, lay between that city and Nineveh, and that its ruins are near the Salamai of modern times, and cuneiform inscriptions at Nimrud give Killik as the Assyrian name of the place. This tends to support the claim of Kala rather than of Resen.